Hey, what's going on, y'all? And today I have another wild story for you. Today's story is going to be about how one of my friends got arrested for developing some potentially explosive psychedelics. That being said, I hope y'all enjoy this little Project Zomboid gameplay. If you've not tried this one out, I highly recommend you and a few friends get together on this one. Also, I don't know how much y'all keep up with gaming, but that Path of Exile 2 demo, bro, Blizzard at Diablo 4 might be cooked, y'all. I'm just saying. But hey, let's get into story time because it's a crazy one, so let me get into it and set this scene. Alright, so the peak of this story was back in April of 2013, and I have absolute certainty of this because of the article of the guy's arrest. But I want to cover a little backstory before this went down, a few months before. This all starts with a friend we'll call Stan. Now, Stan was just in a video before this one titled She Became the Devil. And in this previous video, Stan was the guy from the soft spoken couple that I was talking about, but I just never gave him a name. But one day I was planning to go hang out with Stan and his girlfriend. We're just going to play some drinking card games, smoke a bit, just, hang out, kick it. When I get over to Stan's place, he has another friend there. We're going to call this guy Reggie. And Reggie was a guy that Stan had met in one of his writing classes in college, maybe at the start of the semester. I dap him up, say what's going on, and we get some drinks and just start hanging and kicking it. Comes to find out when I'm chatting with Reggie, he's a really dope dude to chill with. He was maybe a year or two younger than me, and he was just an Indian dude that loved metal. This was always a huge plus for me because anyone that likes any type of hardcore or anything with screaming in it, most people are just going to have that typical reaction of distaste, right? Or I guess it's more common, I should say. After hanging out with him for a bit, I found out that he was in a metal band and toured around and had a little bit of success before he had actually split with them. I had also played in metal bands back in my late teens, early 20s, and we had a lot to bond over, like out the gate. Well, after the first time meeting Reggie, I got his number and we'd start to actually hang out quite a bit. We would normally just grab some food, share some music and bands, that we had heard, have the occasional smoke sesh. Well, one day we're hanging out, and I think we decide to head back to his place after, whatever we were doing. And Reggie tells me that he lived in a different part of the state for a while, or I guess it was where he was originally from. Now, Reggie's family was quite wealthy, or they did pretty well for themselves to say the least. Reggie told me that when he lived in the other city several years back, that him and his family were being profiled by like the ATF or the FBI. I can't really remember. When I asked him like, well, what was the suspicion that they were, profiling you or following you? He said it was because of his last name, because it sounded kind of Middle Eastern. But he was an Indian guy and his family was practicing Hindu. So this is kind of important, so just keep this in mind for later. So on another day, we're hanging out, right? And Reggie starts talking about getting some shrooms. And I'm like, well, maybe I can find some. I just need to look around for a bit. Then Reggie's like, nah, dude, I'm wanting to grow my own. So I tell him like, yo, where are you going to do it? Because it's very important that I mention that he lived in the student housing on campus. So when he started telling me all this, I was already in the mindset of, yo, don't be storing or doing anything sketchy like that in your like campus living quarters. Because when you live on a school's campus, you pretty much forfeit a lot of rights that you would have if you were in your own place outside of campus. And, God forbid, he gets caught. The charges are going to be wild. Just a tip for anyone else out there. That is definitely a useful bit of information. Reggie goes on to say, oh, no, man, I don't plan on doing it here. I have an apartment lined up that I'm moving into in about a month from now. But he tells me he has the spores already. See, he had them with him at his place, but from what it looked like, even if the occasional RA or whoever does like inspections found it, there's no way that they would know what it was. Because the spores were like in a little tube and it was just like clear liquid, so it didn't look super like suspicious or anything. And I remember maybe a couple of days after him telling me this, he asked if I wanted to come with him to find some vermiculite, I believe, from a local hardware or outdoor store or whatever the hell it is. And, I went with him because I didn't really have anything going on that day. And I do even remember telling Reggie, I'm like, yo, all this stuff, you have to move to the other apartment. Like, I wouldn't even bring it in, right? Because I'm pretty sure he had already had the apartment, right? He just hadn't moved anything into it. But he was planning to a few weeks later. But we're going to fast forward roughly about a week later after this. I remember it being nighttime, maybe around like 9:30, 10:30, somewhere around there. And I'm just playing some League of Legends with the roommates, and we all notice an email from our college that there's been like a bust or like a lockdown or something like that, maybe a potential bomb threat. Me and all my roommates look at our phones and like we're like, what the hell's going on? Like, did you get this email? And like we're just kind of speaking amongst ourselves, right? And upon reading the email, it had said something that they had to evacuate like some buildings and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? But I noticed when I'm reading this email, I noticed something oddly familiar. Like the campus apartment building that they were talking about, it was either near or right beside where Reggie was. And it was just, it hadn't really clicked yet in my head. I really wasn't even thinking about it being his place at this moment in time, but my spidey senses like were up for some reason. So I'm just like, oh, wow, that's crazy, and go back to playing League. Then, about an hour later, I get a text from our guy Stan, how I originally met Reggie. And he says, dude, I think Reggie got into some shit. Then immediately I was like, dude, was that his apartment? He's like, yeah. And sure enough, looking back at the email, it was actually his apartment number. And Stan even brought up the thing about him talking about growing mushrooms again. I was telling Steve, yo, bro, I went with him to get some of those supplies. Yo, it turns out that they had every type of law enforcement on this case. They had ATF, FBI, DEA, bro. It was crazy. I also thought back when Reggie was telling me that, he was being profiled. I was like, oh man, they probably have notes on him from the FBI or the ATF. What the hell, when they were profiling him? This is going to be crazy. So how all of this went down was one of Reggie's roommates was apparently like really dumb and sold weed out of the campus apartment. Well, one of Reggie's other roommates got caught with weed somewhere else on campus. And, they found out he lived in the student quarter area. So campus police were like, well, now we got to search your entire apartment now since you live on campus. Remember that forfeiting rights thing about living on campus I'm talking about? Be smart, guys. So they had full reign to search, the whole place. After the campus police takes the guy that they caught out on campus with the bud back to his apartment, lo and behold, dude, Reggie and his dealer roommate are sitting there in the living room ripping like a 5-foot bong, dude. Dude, the campus police broke up the smoke sesh, man. I cannot think of anything more horrifying. The campus police were like, yeah, y'all are basically fucked. So they start going through Reggie's room at some point, and they find the vial of spores in his drawer. And then they go out to his car, and he has the pressure cooker in his truck for the shrooms. Dude didn't take any of this stuff off campus, man. After the campus police see this, they call it in, and everyone, ATF, FBI, what the hell ever, roll up. And like I said, they pretty much locked down campus and evacuated all those apartment buildings near that area. Because maybe they were being a little racist. Maybe it was like the notes before and his last name and everything. But they were treating it like a terrorist attack or something. They were thinking he was gonna, like nuke the whole campus or just drop a jihad or some shit. Dude, after everything was said and done, I remember seeing a local news video when Reggie was in court. And dude, he got off with like minimal repercussion because Reggie's lawyer got him off saying that what he was doing and all the stuff he had was used for religious purpose. It is like Hindi religion. Hey, I will say this situation really showed me firsthand how money can get you out of pretty much anything, at least in America. Dude, he had like a super nice suit on, and like I remember seeing his watch, dude. I'm like, bro, that looks like a fucking 100K watch, dude. That's insane. I was just blown away because all his other roommates pretty much just got arrested, and I think Reggie just got kicked off campus. Like his punishment was very minimal, if anything, especially considering the circumstances. I don't really remember much after this. I feel like he ended up getting out of town after everything was said and done, but I never really talked to him much after that. Maybe catch him on like Xbox every now and then, but he just kind of faded out over the years. Damn, dude, I really wonder what Reggie's up to nowadays, to be honest. But hey, let this story be a little PSA, if you will, to be smart out there. Not just you, but the people you're around, man. You see like how this like chain of reaction of events happened that got him in trouble like this. Granted, he should have not been doing that shit on campus because it's just way too risky, dude. But if those guys had been a little more careful, they wouldn't have been in this situation. Dude, could you imagine you're chilling and smoking and just a cop walks in your front door, bro, like mid-rip? And well, that was the time my friend got arrested making quote unquote explosive psychedelics. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, drop a sub, and stick around for a while. Still would love to have you. And until next time, take it easy, gamers.